We are live, filling in for Mark Lobo tonight as Gabriel. Man, tell everybody about yourself, where they can find you, and why you're here today.
I'm on Twix at hotshot_movie, man-made cinema. I made a documentary about wildland firefighters. It is the #1 rated firefighter film of all time, and it's never been more relevant. And I wish more people saw it, and you'd be able to understand what's happening right now in California.
So we might as well just hop right into this because what is your take on what is happening right now in California?
Well, this is just the record repeating itself. This is fire country. So the entire area around Malibu is prone to wildfires every certain amount of years. They get these outflow winds, towards the end of the year, and those winds push fire like a blowtorch straight across the landscape. So this is a permanent part of the ecosystem out there.
Right.
They continue to lose homes. So to give you an example, back in 1993, Sean Penn's house burned down in a very similar fire where it blew all the way to the ocean, burned up half of Malibu. And then, of course, he rebuilds in the same exact spot. And then in 2018, the Woolsey fire came through and did the exact same thing. And he had to evacuate again. And this guy continues to blame you for the car that you drive for causing climate change, right, not continuing to build in, the California equivalent of Tornado Alley. And that's what this is. It's Tornado Alley for fires. Look, I grew up around the Palisades. My aunt's house burned down. We had a lot of friends whose houses.
Very sorry.
Down. Yeah, it's dude. This one is really, really bad. It's really bad. But unfortunately, a lot of the things that people are pointing to online as like, oh, this is why it happened. There's the fire hydrants. They ran out of water. I got it. Unfortunately, I'm going to burst some bubbles here because I've been on so many of these urban conflagrations. I've been in the middle of them. What happens is when you have hundreds of homes get burned to the ground, all of the plumbing is gone too, which means all of your water is shooting out. So what you see when you go through these conflagrations, you just see water gushing from everywhere. So imagine we had 5,000 structures get lost in the Palisades. So you've got 5,000 structures all gushing their water mains at full tilt. That's why you lose pressure. You just run out of water. And this happens normally. It's not some conspiracy. Look, we can speak to the DEI hiring, the LA Fire Department, but the reality is they didn't just swap out all the studs who operate these engines and these hand crews and swap them with 300-pound lesbians. It's like that didn't happen. You still have all these studs out there doing absolutely everything that they can. The thing you have to remember is the fire response system. It's so like deeply programmed that these guys, they just go. They're like robots. When there's a response, there's a certain amount of people go do X, Y, and Z. You do this, you follow these protocols, you go do your tasks. Everything it's on autopilot at this point. It's the dudes on the ground who are running everything. They couldn't care less who the chief is. So in terms of what's happening on the ground, none of that shit matters. The one thing that I will say that really does matter is the absence of prescribed fire. And Gavin Newsom, he's not the only governor to fail at doing this, but he is the worst. And California is supposed to burn about 4 million acres a year just to clear out that overgrowth. Every year you got more fuel coming out of the ground. If you don't get rid of it, then it's going to explode, which is what we saw now. So these areas haven't seen fire in years. The fuels are absolutely, they're overgrown everywhere. They're around people's homes. Nobody removes it. You get a bad weather day like this. And honestly, it can be an accidental ignition. It can be a power line. It's really common. But it could be a bad actor too. That's the thing. If you leave all these fuels in the forest, you leave yourself vulnerable to someone just coming in, dropping a road flare. It's as simple as that. You can drop a road flare in the wrong place on the wrong day, and it's lights out. Like, think of how much damage you can do with just one little ignition.
So the thing that the couple questions I have from what you just said, if a house burns down, should there not be some sort of mechanism that, okay, all of a sudden water just starts you're coming out pressure wise like crazy for a high burn area? Wouldn't there be some sort of automatic shut off? Like, shouldn't these houses be outfitted with something that would realize that the pressure is just flying out of it and shut it off?
Yeah, there should. And you can add that to the long list of things that should happen in communities where people just decide to live in fire country. There's a lot of things that people need to do if they want to live there.
So a question I had for you also, this is the same thing as when I look at healthcare insurance companies, right? Because healthcare is my thing. When I look at healthcare insurance companies and they're all of a sudden start raising the rates for everybody. It's like they know something's about to happen, right? Or something has happened. When the people start getting their insurances canceled, like in the olden days, like if before Obamacare, if you were 500 pounds because you kept gluttoning yourself, they'd cancel your insurance because, frankly, like it's not something you're gonna do. Like I've had people even still complain about life insurance, like very, very, very big people from the fat acceptance community complain about like, I can't get life insurance or they cancel my life insurance. Well, that's because in no way are you going to pay close to Intuit what is going to be taken out of it, because you're not going to live long enough to pay anywhere close into it, right? And or even close into it where they can even use that money to then invest in other things, because that's what a lot of insurance companies do. They use that money, then they invest in other things, and then they build it up, right? But with most of the fire insurance being canceled 4 months ago, does that basically mean like the insurance companies basically were like, hey, we're overdue and this is about to happen? Gavin Newsom has they haven't been taking care of this shit, so let's protect our assets?
Yes, 100%. So the thing is, like I said before, this is a loop that keeps repeating itself. These things are very predictable. And I was predicting this the day before. I was saying, hey, you guys got to look out. This something's going to burn really badly. And throughout fire season, we've been able to predict a lot of these things because it's just routine. So 4 months ago, that would have taken us towards the end of summer. And that is the beginning of California's most devastating fire season, the autumn fire season, where you start getting these winds. Yeah. And so they knew that previous to this last year, we had 2 years of insane amounts of rain, like copious rain. The reservoirs are full, so like all the talk about water, there's plenty of water. That wasn't the issue. Here's the problem. It's a double-edged sword. With all that rain comes more growth, more fuel. This is why the cycle is always repeating itself. So anybody who understands fire looks at that and they go, hey, we've had 2 very slow fire seasons back to back in 22 and 23.
Right.
We had 2 massive rain years. We know what's coming. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
If you don't get rid of those fuels that are coming out, you know what's going to happen every time. So yes, if you're a betting man and your bet depends on homes surviving in a fire alley, and you see all those ingredients aligning, yeah, fuck that. You pull your investment. And the thing is, it's like, this is just going to make it 10 billion times worse, because this is probably going to be a $50 billion fire, honestly, maybe even more.
Oh, it's way over that, actually. Mark and I were running some numbers last night. The average home in Palisades is $3.5 million. So that's the average. And just 1,000 homes already gone or more. Not to mention that it's still spreading. I mean, for what I understand, it's gonna, like, they're expecting it to go into Hollywood like any time, right? Like they're actually, I mean, the graphic that I used for the thumbnail is AI generated, but that could be a very real thing here in about a day, unfortunately. But if you look at all of, like, the Malibu homes, like the Malibu waterfront homes are all gone. Those are all $40-50 million homes right off the bat. And people are like, oh, these people are rich and can rebuild. First of all, they're not like rich like that. Like, most of these people are not liquid where they can get it. Secondly, they would never be able to insure that home ever. Like after this happens, like if these insurance companies would have insured these places, there's no fucking way they wouldn't have gone bankrupt. As it is, some places are still going to go bankrupt. Some insurance companies are still going to just fucking go, because this is of epic proportion. Like LA is basically destroyed right now, and the weird thing that I find, like, I do think that there's a certain amount of like oddness to the fact that, we're seeing all these things happen in weird areas, like the Malibu fires. Like, it's prime property. They couldn't get these people to sell. All of a sudden, all their homes are gone, and they drag their feet on not rebuilding, stuff like that, right? The Western North Carolina, it's lithium, and all of a sudden they're slow walking these people, right? With this, 4 separate fires, it like all 0% contained, going in high winds. Like, if I was, a land grabber, and to speak from the evil side of my brain, okay, hey, the winds are going to hit about 80, 90 miles an hour. I'm going to take a quick trip around, and I could fucking cause mass devastation because of this, because of how California is. It's like bad actors, it's always this wild thing to me. Like, I don't understand how, if I can think of something, and I know I've got like a fucked up brain. I'm very well aware, but I don't think I'm like that evil. Where it's like if I can figure it out, I'm sure other people can figure it out, type thing. And to me, that would just sound like, well, I can make it. These people don't have insurance, anything like that. If I wanted to get this land for some fucking reason, if I wanted to have the oceanfront property so I could, build whatever on it, and I could self-insure and do all whatever, like whatever they do with it, right? They could get rid of these places or cause massive issue, even if they don't. It could have worked out better or worse than what they thought. It's the same thing as like I was telling people, like, it's wild that I still have to like take my shoes off at TSA when the border's open, because if I realize that a terrorist could just, if a 16-year-old pregnant woman from Mexico can realize that she walks across the border, she can walk across the border and just disappear into America, I'm pretty sure the fucking terrorists and sleeper cells can fucking figure that shit out too. Like, it's just this thing, like people pretend like, well, that wouldn't happen. Like, why the fuck wouldn't it happen? Look at the world we live in. It's horribly evil, right? And I wonder how much of this is literally just for the sake of, very rich people deciding like, hey, we get to take stuff off. And I heard one very, very weird, I don't think it like theory, but the theory was, well, they're threatening to release the Epstein list on the 20th. And this is Hollywood's way of saying, like, because notice how nobody got hurt. Like 5 people died when an entire city of millions of people is burning. And they probably died in car accidents or whatever, right? So this is just it's a weird thing that somehow it's not coordinated. And I get what you're saying. Like, it's the leadership. The leadership is not the same people. They did get rid of a lot of firefighters for the vaccine and stuff like that. I will say that too. Oh, yeah. But I wanted to play this clip for you. And here's my thing. Before we go any further, I don't care who anybody wants to sleep with. This is not why I give a shit about this clip. Okay. It's about physical preparedness for a job. That's it. Okay. And I have met some badass female firefighters that could carry a man out and everything like that. It's not anything to do with it, but I don't know if you've seen this clip, but I've got to show it to you, because when I saw it, you're the first person I thought of. But this is the assistant fire chief for LA, right? Right here.
And their situation better.
Hang on one second. Let me fix this real quick.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
No, I don't. Just to be clear, no, I don't.
Yes, you do. You want somebody to show up who looks like you.
No, I want somebody who shows up that's bigger. I want bigger, stronger, fucking. Because I know that like I don't want them. I want them younger. Like I don't want them to look like me. I want them to be like 25-year-old me, or somebody, or 25-year-old me with like 6 more inches and another like 50 fucking pounds on them of muscle. Like, that's what I want, Yeah. I've never once thought like, boy, my legs are on fire. I am going to die in a fire. I hope some bald guy shows up with tattoos, because if it's not a bald guy with tattoos, just leave me in here to smolder. Like just stupid as fuck. But listen, it gets worse though.
Oh no. Oh God.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or, you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
What?
I'm going to play that one more time.
Knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or, you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Your thoughts?
This is the end of civilization, honestly. Like, this is fucking inmates running the asylum.
Yeah.
You got yourself in the wrong. Imagine saying that
as like an EMS.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we can't get the jaws of life to get you out.
She's like she's the assistant fire chief. She's the assistant fire chief.
Yeah, she needs to go away
immediately. Like this crazy shit. Look, man.
on the municipal side, they're vulnerable to this stupid woke DEI bullshit, and it's
Yeah.
like it is absolutely destructive.
The one thing that we can take comfort in is on the LA County side, they're a stud agency run by like their fire chief looks like a guy who you want to be your fire chief, and
Right.
they these are the main operators who are handling this stuff, but this stuff at the local city level is just absolutely unacceptable, and people are so afraid of being called some kind of phobe or some kind of is that they allow this crazy nonsense to happen, which we all know is bullshit. Like, you can't do this. You can't have some effete, they, them, who can't actually carry you out of a fire, chastising you for like, well, why are you in a place where I need to carry you? I'm sorry, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
it's unreal.
That would be disqualifying to me.
100%.
But and here's my other thing, right? I have said for a long time that Gavin Newsom is like the living embodiment of a DC comic villain. I mean, he really, really is, right? And has been for a while. Like, I don't understand how you guys keep voting for that motherfucker. Like, I really don't. Like, it's hard. And don't get me wrong, I sympathize for fucking everybody over there. I don't give a fuck who you voted for. Nobody should go through what these people are going through. Nobody, right? Not the ones that are already looting, and not the ones that are actually setting extra, because there's video of people setting fires, like video, not those, but and who's like George Soros could pay a bunch of homeless people $20 a fucking pop to fucking set fires. I mean, that shit is reality, but I feel for all of them, but you people have got to make wiser decisions. Like the world, it's, this to me is like, the people that live in the world where there's a purple sky with a rainbow on it and the unicorns dancing across it, shitting out glitter and stuff like that. Like, those people just got smacked in the face by the real world, right? I mean, like, very, very, very hard. And I live in like what I consider to be the very raw real world. Like, in my brain is like, I always imagine worst case scenario, what somebody's going to do, and then I build back from there, and then I make them earn my trust, right? That's why while I voted for Trump, I voted for the whole team. I don't think Trump's a savior by any fucking stretch of the imagination. I think we, the people, need to save ourselves, and he is just the like a gap stop on totalitarianism. Like, that's how I view it, right? And California, like, I mean, from what I understand, I've been there one time. So I went, then that one time was literally just for business. I was at a grocery store, a hotel, a gym, and basically the studio. That's it, right? I didn't get to I didn't get to have LA. I didn't get to have Orange County or LA culture. The only thing I really, really remember is it was like $9 a gallon of gas, which is fucking insanity. Yeah. But you guys got to wake up, because the world is, who gives a fuck if you have a transgender mayor, or if the gay parade is awesome and shit like that. Who gives a fuck like that if your city can burn down like every 4 fucking years? Right. Like, I'm sorry, but like, people need to wake up to the realities of shit, because while we like, it's like the whole wokeness of America, which is dying out, I think, a little bit, which is great, but the whole wokeness, everybody wants to hold hands and fucking pretend like everybody loves each other and shit like that. That's not the world. The world is actually a rather savage place. Like, there are places where people still get their hands cut off for fucking stealing shit. And, I mean, and look at what's happening in UK. There's actual like fucking rape gangs going around, like, and the parliament doesn't want to fucking do anything about it. Instead, they threaten to come and arrest American citizens for their posts, which is like, remember 1776? You come on and fucking find out, bitch. But, like, that's my message to the people in California. It's like, if you voted for this, and you didn't vote for this, I don't want to insult people by thinking that. I don't think anybody voted to have the city burned down. Like, I really don't. But if you allowed yourself to listen to people from Hollywood, and they're in their morality, them wagging their finger in moral judgment of everybody, like saying like, we need to be nicer to people, and that's just not right. We need to be inclusive. And like, I would remind you a couple things. First of all, don't let these people influence what would be good for you in the voting booth, because what's good for you is not what's good for them. What's good for them is to keep their rich friends in power so they can stay powerful, right? We're allowing people that we pay to pretend to be other people to actually like write culture, and that's fucking stupid, right?
Yeah.
But I wish that like people could wake up and realize, like, because it's like gonna become so politicized, and I'm not trying to politicize it, but my only statement to California is San Francisco. If you look at pictures and movies of it from 2000, just the year 2000.
Yeah.
It was a glorious, beautiful fucking operating city, and everybody spoke amazingly about it, that it was like the place that you wanted to be, nicest city, cleanest city, everything like that. There's a little app right now that outlines how you can avoid stepping in human shit in San Francisco, right? LA is literally burning to the ground after they had wildfires 4 years ago. Everybody made fun of Trump for saying that they need to do deforestation and forestry management, which was a valid thing to say. They made fun of him for it. They literally totally made fun of him for it. And I understand where you're talking about, like, it's about the water pressure in the lines, but still they do have unprecedented amounts of drought in California for the people. Like water is like this precious commodity, when if they would just build a few dams and not worry about the goddamn smelt in the fucking ocean, if they would fucking be able to like have like cheaper water and be able to possibly even have your own house reservoir if you need to do something about it, right? And I implore to all of you, like, I understand Orange Man bad, I get that shit, and I understand Gavin Newsom is very, very cute and you like how he does his hair, but he's destroying your fucking lives. Like, he's literally destroying life at this point. Most of these very, very, very rich people that live there in Malibu and shit like that, they're not coming back. Like, what's going to happen now? A lot of this made a lot of Democrats into Republicans. I can almost guarantee it. Texas, Tennessee, Florida are going to fill the fuck up again with very rich people. And when that happens, revenue goes down. And I don't think that Gavin Newsom is going to like that much. So, I mean, that means everybody else's taxes are going to go the fuck up. And I worry for all of you. You guys should recall your governor. You guys should recall your mayor, and make it so that the cities run for you, not for illegal aliens, not for Gavin Newsom, not for political points, not for anything like that. Like, it should run for you. Like, it's wild to me. Like, people are like, oh, we make so much money here, our houses cost so much. But I'm sitting here in my little country house, living simply, living below my means, not worried that, I'm allowed to own a gun. Like, I mean, it's a stand your ground castle doctrine state, like, it's this stuff where it's like, you guys are they're fed this story, and I've never been there. So maybe you can tell me, but in my view, like what I see, they've been fed this story on what California used to be. And it doesn't match up with what it is now, but yet they don't want to admit that California has become and is becoming radically a very serious, like, socialist shithole.
Yes.
What do you think?
I was born and raised in California. I was a lifer. Like, I never had any ideas of living anywhere else.
And California used to be the jewel of this country. It really was. And I left for Tennessee 3 years ago.
And I was the black sheep of the family in a lot of ways.
All the rest of my family stayed in California, and they all sort of thought of me as like, oh, that's the one who left the liberal flock. Oh, he's a Trump supporter and all this.
I will tell you, last night I spoke to my dad just to check in on him.
And, because his sister lost her house. And this was the first time that
anybody in my family said,
hey, you made the right move.
Leaving California.
Yeah.
This is the first time I heard it, and I never would have expected it, because we've always sort of been at odds, sort of culturally, politically, and also they just had no idea. Like, I'm never leaving California.
This is the peak. This is the pinnacle. And yeah, I'll step over homeless people. We'll deal with all this stuff. Right now, a friend of ours just inherited a house.
Okay, from dead mother. She now has to pay $30,000 a year in taxes, property tax. So just for the right of having that, it's a paid off house, $30,000 a year for property tax, $14,000 a year for insurance, because the rates have quadrupled because of all.
Wow.
So $44,000, that's more than my mortgage. And this is for a house that she inherited. She's going to have to pay $44,000 a year every single year for the rest of her life, just for the right of having a paid off home. This is absolutely unsustainable. And my father's looking at this. his insurance got canceled. He's got to go on the most expensive insurance plan, no fault of his own. There's no fires anywhere near him. And he's honestly, for the first time, he's like, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't afford to live here anymore. He's retired. What's he gonna do? So the question that, Dan Bongino always poses, he always asks, is it bad enough yet? Right? In these liberal places where they just continue to vote for their own destruction. And I think it's starting to get there. You would have thought that in 2020, when they locked everyone down, fucked everybody's businesses, fired people for the vaccines and all that shit, you would have thought it's bad enough then, but it really wasn't. But now that all the rich people are getting nuked as well, is it bad enough now? Now you can't afford to live there anymore? Now that it seems like it's always on fire? Like, everybody talked about how great the weather is. Like, what do you mean, raining ash? With 90-mile-per-hour winds, with embers flying over, that's great weather. I think it's starting to get to that point where it is bad enough. And I don't think they have the wisdom to change voting wise, because it's like they're stuck in this syndrome. They're going to flee to other states. And it's just going to be like a repeat of 2021. And
that sucks because, and if you do move because of that shit, remember to vote differently than you voted historically. That's my biggest thing about that stuff. Yeah, or don't vote. Yeah.
Let your neighbors do the voting. You sit back and observe how they vote.
It's just this, and I talk about this all the time, but I also think that this is why the federal government needs to be massively redacted, besides the fact that that's what the Constitution meant. The Constitution meant to have a small federal government, right? But since you grew up in California, and then you live in Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
They're different countries. People, we call it states, but they're different countries, and I wish people could grasp that more. The foliage, because I live by the peninsula of Florida, right? The foliage here is way different than you're going to find in the Rockies. The topography is vastly different. The animals way different. I mean, it's like if you live in the Everglades of Florida, everything can fucking kill you. Every fucking thing. There is everything from bears, poisonous spiders, poisonous snakes, anacondas, fucking pythons, massive crocodiles, alligators. Everything can fucking kill you. At any given fucking time. Wild boar, packs of 50, 60, 70 wild boar. It's like a completely different fucking country than going up to Western Pennsylvania, where you're going to have a bear and then it's mostly deer, shit like that, right? And I point that out. Me and my dad had that conversation because, he's a hunter, I'm a hunter, and I was like, I can't wait to go hunting this year. And I'm going to go after here in a couple months. I'm gonna get myself a gator this year. And he's like, what? And I'm like, this is the first year I'm going to get a gator, And he's like, what the fuck are you doing hunting gator? He was like, we hunt deer and rabbit. And I'm like, no, I'm hunting gator. I was like, I'm going to get a boar and I'm going to get a gator this year. Those are my goals. Right. But it's just that the difference where then you go over over California, the wildlife is different. I mean, there's some that are the same, some are different, but if you look at the trees are different, so much stuff. And we just should not one big entity should not rule California the same way it rules Florida, the same way it rules South Carolina. Shit, I lived in South Carolina for a long time. South Carolina and Florida could not be more different. They just literally could not be more different. Now, they both have rednecks, but the rednecks in Florida are very different than the rednecks in South Carolina. Rednecks in Florida, I more consider myself a Florida man than anything. I hate wearing shoes. I'm barefoot most of the fucking time. In the grass, on the fucking sand, I don't give a shit, right? But it's just differences, right? Do you think that it is even do you think it is up to the federal government to fix California, or is it up to Californians?
Well, look, if we want to respect federalism
and states' rights, it's up to Californians.
Right. Ultimately, they have to fix it because we don't want the consequences of an overbearing federal government. At the same time, it's right. California is such an important part of this country, and it's such a beautiful part of this country. I mean, truly is the most blessed state, and it's part of the problem. It's like the good-looking stripper that just never had to earn anything ever because of its natural beauty, and so it didn't develop any good social skills, any character, and it's just kind of a piece of shit. And the thing is like,
we're straddling this line where you want states' rights, but at the same time, you don't want to lose this gem.
it's really sad. Like I mourn the loss of California. I don't celebrate it. And so there's a part of me that honestly wants the federal government under someone, quasi responsible like Trump to come in and
actually like
do something. But I think we have to slap away that urge, and ultimately it has to come back to that ultimate equation of, is it bad enough yet? And it has to get worse before it gets better, honestly.
And we're getting there.
I certainly hope so, because like I said, Mark is from California, and like Ambrosia, which is a company I'm partnered with. It's like one of my businesses basically is No More Bidding Alchemy. They're in fucking Orange County, get your shit together, basically,
Yeah.
But I thought it would be interesting to just even take a comparison to this. Now, I did also see that Biden said for the next 180 days that the federal government, all of our taxes, will be paying for the recovery operations in California.
This shit.
I just wonder why we didn't do does everybody realize, and please, and just so everybody understands, please understand, I want everybody to be okay. But the hillbillies and rednecks in Western North Carolina, there's still a lot of them that are living in fucking tents, and it's like Arctic freezing right there right now. I mean, it's like we've forgotten about them.
Yeah.
There's going to be fucking telethons and shit like that about this shit in California. And don't get me wrong, again, I feel for them too, but it's like we've completely forgotten about the people of Lahaina. Shut the people in East Palestine, Ohio, might as well fucking just accept the fact that all their kids are going to have like 2 toes and fucking 2 heads for generations to come. And Western North Carolina, these people might as well just realize that they're going to lose their property, because the local county, by the way, has also announced that they're collecting their property tax no matter what on what the home used to be. Like they're collecting their fucking tax. So basically they're going to claim eminent domain. They're going to take all these people's land, and then they're going to sell it to the lithium mines. It's a big ass fucking land grab. But since these are rich, basically, and here's what people don't want to understand. Biden, if you guys think that there's any racism in America, Biden just gave rich white people who don't really need the money nearly as bad as other people.
Yeah.
He made all of us pay for their problem for the next 180 fucking days.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I personally believe, and I've said this multiple times, Biden shouldn't be we should view all of Biden's decisions as being null and void. Not one pardon, not one pardon, not one executive order. He was found too incompetent to stand trial 2 years ago. Once you're found too incompetent to stand trial, they should have removed him. They didn't want to remove him, but we certainly shouldn't be allowing him to send hundreds of billions of dollars other places. Basically, pardon his child, shit like that. We shouldn't be allowing that shit, and we should consider all of those null and void, all of them.
Well,
look, his son's house burned up in that fire, by the way. So maybe there's a little bit of bias behind that. So he might just want to be funneling more money back into his son's pocket. But here's the other insult to Western North Carolina. They are now paying for California's fires. So on top of not getting anything and not getting any support, they're now subsidizing something that's a preventable disaster. And that's what's so frustrating about the fires. It's not like a flood. It's not like a hurricane.
Yeah.
It's not like a tornado.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, we don't control the weather, but you can stop these fires from happening. And you can certainly insulate your properties better. So that way, when you do get that fire, the destruction isn't quite so devastating. And that's what's so frustrating about this is, to a large degree, it's a man-made or a man-accepted negligent disaster. It's not a natural disaster. And that's what's so frustrating. And so now people in South Dakota and Vermont, even other liberal states who don't mismanage their states the way that California does, now have to subsidize all of their recklessness and Gavin Newsom's irresponsibility. This is unacceptable. So on the same, this is like two hands in the same body. We don't want the federal government to be intervening and encroaching on states' rights. But we can't also be playing favorites like this, especially for something that's the result of neglect, and that's this fire stuff. It's all neglect. It's unacceptable, man.
So, how do you think that they should, like, if you were in charge of the rebuild, just knowing what you know about fires and stuff like that, what policies would you put into place about rebuilding, about forest management, stuff like that? Like, what could avoid this happening again? Because say they rebuild everything exactly the way it was, and all the American people pay for it because that's what Biden wants us to do. Like, how would you change what's been done? How would you change that to make sure that we wouldn't have a repeat of this, say 4 or 5 years from now?
It's a combination of things. Number one, you have to reduce the density by like 60%. So for every 3 homes, you can only have 1.
Because when they're that tightly packed,
Honestly,
it doesn't require a wildfire to knock everything out. If just one home at the top of that block
catches fire for whatever reason, like a transformer explodes,
all of them are going to go out. And that's what happened in Lahaina as well. It wasn't really that much of a wildfire, but the winds are so bad and everything's so tightly packed, everything gets moved like dominoes.
Right.
So number one, when you live in a wind tunnel like that area, you cannot have homes that densely packed. Number two, you have to do annual burning. You have to get rid of those fuels every single year. That's what the Indians did when they lived here. They burned it off every single year. You have to do that maintenance. Number three, you have to build a 300-foot green belt around the community where you have mulch and you have the kinds of trees that don't burn, right? So that way you have this belt, this buffer. I've seen this in Orange County, in Orchard Hills. They had a 300-foot green belt around this very affluent community. They had a similar fire, 85-mile-per-hour winds going straight at this community. It hits the green belt, nothing happened. The fire just died out because there's nothing else to burn. So a few embers got in some palm trees, they took care of it, but it's like, we know how to do this. So build some defensible systems, up the building codes. But look, man, here's what's going to happen. Everything's going to get bought by big-time developers because the place is absolutely uninsurable. So you can only buy with cash. And the only people who can afford to buy that kind of caliber property with cash are super wealthy. And I will say, like, yes, the majority of people in the Palisades are wealthy, but my aunt is not wealthy. She's barely hanging on. There are a lot of people who bought 30, 40, 50 years ago, back when California was affordable, and they just happen to still be there. They're like surfer bums. They're screwed. They're never coming back. They'll never have an opportunity to get back in.
So on the concept of rebuilding, and here's why, and I know everybody's gonna be like conspiracy theorist, blah, blah, blah. But again, and you've been on the show before, like, I have a unique kind of intelligence, right? I'm able to stand back, take a look at the broad picture of things. That's what I did for COVID. And I know that a lot of people don't like hearing this, but I was 100%. Like, it's not even deniable. Check my fucking feed. I was 100% the whole time. I believe in March, I was like, the infection fatality rate is going to be in line with the seasonal flu. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you. It's either more transmissible or it's more transmissible and in line with the seasonal flu, or it is, way more transmissible and a little less deadly than a seasonal flu. And that's what it proved to be. And it had a great marketing team. So I just do take a step back and I look at these places. Like, I looked at the Lahaina thing, like they wanted that property and that property was set to be a smart city. Have you heard about the concept of smart cities?
Oh, yeah.
Like the 15-minute cities? Well, I just find it fucking weird, like really fucking weird that in 2019, they slated that like by 2028, that the city of Los Angeles was going to be rebuilt as a smart city.
Right.
And here we are now, and basically what this means for people, just so you understand, and a lot of people think this is a great idea. The concept of a smart city is that everything is within a 15-minute walk. You don't need a car because everything's within a 15-minute walk. Your grocery store, you're this, you're that. It's your entire little, like, it's a bunch of tiny little communities that you can walk and get anything you need to get. And you kind of need to like check out if you want to go to another community. And most people don't, you have to pay an extra fee if you want to own a car. And it's that way it's greener. So we don't have as many automobiles as if like that fucking matters and shit like that. But I just find it very weird, like just very weird. Like it's just a really weird coincidence that this is on the books as a plan. This is not, by the way, this is not an unrealistic thing. This is an actual, like, fucking smart city information thing. Oh, hang on a second. This is the Informational Technology Agency, City of Los Angeles. And it's a lacity.gov website. So this is them. This is their plan, right? And this is Ted Ross, and it says, we live in a world full of urban challenges, from racial injustice to impact our minority populations to natural disasters that threaten safety and property, to environmental changes that affect the very water we drink and the air we breathe. To address these changes, cities seek tools that can positively transform the urban environment. The most promising of these tools is technology. Technology enables the city of Los Angeles to effectively and ethically improve the quality of life of our residents, businesses, visitors. In other words, when doing it right, technology makes us smarter. This is why the city of Los Angeles strives to become a smart city. I would also argue, I believe that there's a plan like for this for San Francisco too. And it's just weird how we were just talking about how San Francisco was an amazing city at one point in time. And through decisions like to basically legalize theft. I mean, they've legalized theft basically in fucking California, but they legalized theft. Then they legalized drug abuse. And it's like a zombie apocalypse zone walking down fucking San Francisco. Everybody realizes that lowers the price of the property for the people that want to come in and change it all up, right? Like, this is an old mob trick. Like, nobody seems to get this. Like, the mob used to let an area get crime ridden. They used to push drugs into an area, right? Not that I know anybody in the mob, just because I'm Italian. Don't fucking be bigoted. But they used to push like crime and drugs into a certain area, so it would get just fucked up really bad, and then they would pay the police off. And this is true. They would pay the police off to not do anything about it. And then people would either move, or like they would come in and they would offer to buy their house at like for pennies on the dollar just so they could get out of there and shit like that, right? Or they would just light a fire and burn down entire fucking neighborhoods. And you can look up in our history, that's happened multiple times. And then they would redevelop the area. I'm not saying that that's what happened here right now. I am saying it's awfully odd that while there was a windstorm in a very opportune year, and the policies are set not to, actually do forest management, that all of a sudden 4 separate fires start in 4 separate, very fucking highly valued areas. And then they don't get they're in a way that they can't even be put out. I'm just saying that sounds a little fucking sketchy to me. So while I'm not saying it's what happened, I'm saying if you don't think it's a possibility, you're not paying attention. Like fucking for real. So
yeah. The one thing I'll say on that is, regardless of whether or not that was the motivation behind it or it was an accidental fire, people will take advantage of it. At the very best case scenario, this tragedy and the loss of all my friends' homes is going to be leveraged for that end. So it's 100% going to be taken advantage of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's fucking crazy. But anyway, you said you needed to get out of here in about 45 minutes, and I am going to go call it an early night. My name is Alan Roberts. Tell them where they can find you and what you do.
Go to hotshotmovie.com. Go check out our film, and you can see me twixing it up at hotshot_movie on Twitter.
Hell yeah. And we will be back on Monday with some more evening rants. My name is Alan Roberts. Everybody have a great weekend. God damn.